I sat there at that candlelit table, watching my fiancée's lips move as she spoke the words I had been expecting for days. The restaurant buzzed softly around us, expensive wine glasses catching the amber light, her parents sitting across from me with those practiced smiles wealthy people wear when they think they have all the power. Jessica's hand squeezed mine as she said, "I have decided we need a prenup. Everything stays separate." My heart was pounding, but not from shock. It was anticipation. Because 1 week ago, I had withdrawn my name from our house contract and pulled back $50,000. Now as I looked into her eyes and said, "Perfect timing," I knew I was holding every card at this table, and they had no idea what was coming. But before I tell you how I ended up at that dinner table holding all the cards, I need to know something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you are enjoying this story of how I turned the tables on someone who tried to play me, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more real-life stories where the underdog gets the last word. Trust me, you will want to hear what happened next when her parents realized their daughter just lost $50,000 in one conversation, because what I am about to tell you is not just about money or a prenup. It is about the moment I realized the person I loved saw me as a risk to manage instead of a partner to build with. Let me take you back to where this all began. My name is Gary. I am 28 years old, and up until 3 months ago, I thought I had my life figured out. I work as a software engineer at a tech startup here in Austin, Texas. The job pays well, about $95,000 a year, plus stock options, and I have always been the kind of guy who plans ahead. I save money. I read books about personal finance. I do not blow my paycheck on stupid stuff. My apartment is modest. My car is paid off, and my idea of a good time is hiking along the Barton Creek Greenbelt with a good podcast in my ears. 2 years ago, I met Jessica at a coffee shop downtown. I was working on my laptop. She was sitting 2 tables over with her own computer, and when I got up to refill my coffee, I accidentally knocked my cup right onto her keyboard. I felt like the biggest idiot alive. But instead of screaming at me, she just laughed. She actually laughed. I paid to get her laptop fixed, insisted on taking her to dinner to apologize properly, and by the end of that night, I knew something had clicked. She was 27, worked as a marketing coordinator at a local agency, making about $52,000 a year, and she had this energy about her: bright, optimistic. She loved yoga and brunch dates with her friends. She posted everything on Instagram. We were different, sure, but it felt like we balanced each other out. 6 months later, we moved in together. A year after that, I proposed to her at Zilker Park during sunset. The sky was orange and pink. The water behind us reflected the colors like a painting. And when I got down on one knee, she cried. Real tears, happy tears. She said yes before I even finished asking the question. I thought that was it. I thought I had found the person I would build a life with. Then 6 months after our engagement, we started talking about buying a house. Real estate in Austin was climbing fast, and we both agreed it made sense to lock in a good price before things got even crazier. We spent 3 months looking at properties, walking through open houses every weekend, imagining where our furniture would go, which room would be the home office where we would plant a garden. Finally, we found it. A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in South Austin, with a little backyard and trees that gave actual shade in the Texas heat. The price was $420,000. The down payment was $84,000. 20%. That is what you need if you want to avoid private mortgage insurance and get a decent interest rate. I put in $50,000. That money came from years of saving, of skipping vacations, and driving the same car, and cooking at home instead of eating out every night. It was not family money. It was not a gift. It was mine. Jessica put in $34,000. She said it came from her savings and some help from her family. I did not ask questions. Why would I? We were partners. We were building something together. We both signed the contract. Both our names went on the title. Co-ownership, 50-50. The closing was scheduled for 6 weeks out, and I remember sitting in that real estate office signing page after page, feeling this surge of pride. I was 28 years old and buying my first house, with the woman I loved. Everything felt right. I signed those papers feeling like I was building something real, something permanent. But 2 weeks after we put that money into escrow, something shifted. We were sitting on the couch one Friday night, some show playing on Netflix that neither of us was really watching. Jessica was scrolling through her phone, and out of nowhere she said, "Babe, I was talking to my friend Amanda today." I glanced over. "Yeah, how is she?" Jessica did not look up from her screen. She just got married. They did a prenup. I felt my stomach tighten just a little. "Oh, that is interesting." Jessica finally looked at me. "What do you think about prenups?" I tried to keep my voice casual. "I mean, I guess they make sense for some people. Like if someone has a huge inheritance or runs a business or something." I paused. "Why are you thinking about it?" She laughed, a light little sound that felt forced. "Oh no, just curious. Amanda was telling me about hers." Then she patted my hand. "Anyway, what do you want for dinner tomorrow?" And just like that, the subject dropped. But it did not leave my mind. I kept thinking about it as we went to bed that night, as I stared at the ceiling while Jessica slept next to me. Why would she bring up prenups right after we just bought a house together? It did not make sense. But I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe she really was just making conversation. The next week, things got weirder. Jessica started talking on the phone more. A lot more. And every time I walked into the room, she would lower her voice or say, "I will call you back," and hang up quickly. When I asked if everything was okay, she would smile and say, "Yeah, just wedding stuff with Mom." Her mom's name was Diane. Diane and her husband Robert owned a chain of car dealerships in Houston. They were wealthy, really wealthy. The kind of people who wore designer labels to casual lunches and always picked the most expensive wine without looking at the price. Jessica had grown up with money, though she always said she wanted to make it on her own. I respected that. I thought it showed character. One evening I came home from the gym earlier than usual. As I walked toward our bedroom, I heard Jessica's voice through the half-open door. She was on the phone. I should have announced myself. I should have just walked in. But something in her tone made me stop. "I know, Mom," she was saying. "I'm just worried that if something happens—" "Yes, I understand. The house is a big asset. Maybe Amanda is right." I stood there in the hallway, my gym bag heavy on my shoulder, heart beating in my ears. Jessica continued, "I will talk to him, but not yet. Let me think about how to bring it up." I took a quiet step back, then called out loudly, "Jess, I am home." I heard her voice change instantly. "Oh, hey, Mom, I have to go. Gary just got back." She came out a moment later, her face a little flushed. "Hey, babe. How was the gym?" I searched her eyes, but she just smiled. That normal, everyday smile. "Good," I said. "Tough workout." But inside, my mind was racing. "Talk to me about what the prenup was. Her mom pushing this." I decided not to say anything yet. I needed to know more. A week passed, and I could not shake the feeling that something was off. Every time Jessica got a phone call, I paid attention. Every time she seemed distracted, I wondered what she was thinking. Then one night when she went to her yoga class, I did something I am not proud of. I opened our shared email account. We had set it up together to manage bills, subscriptions, and paperwork for the house purchase. I told myself I was just checking on the closing documents. But that was a lie. I was looking for answers, and I found them. There, buried between emails from our realtor and the mortgage company, was a message from a law firm. The subject line read, "Re-prenuptial agreement consultation." My hands went cold. I clicked it open. "Dear Jessica, thank you for reaching out about drafting a prenuptial agreement. As we discussed, given the significant assets involved, including the house down payment and your future inheritance from your family estate, it is prudent to protect these assets by ensuring they remain separate property. I have attached the preliminary draft for your review. Please let me know if you have any questions or would like to schedule a follow-up consultation. I sat there staring at the screen. Future inheritance from her family estate. She had never mentioned an inheritance. Not once. I opened the attachment. It was a PDF 23 pages long. I started reading. The language was dense, full of legal terms, but the core message was clear. All assets acquired before marriage would remain separate. All assets acquired during marriage, including the house, would be divided based on contribution ratio, no alimony. And then there was a section specifically about inheritance. Any money or property Jessica received from her family would be hers alone. I would have no claim to it. Ever. I leaned back in my chair, feeling like the air had been sucked out of the room. So this was what she and her mother had been planning. Protecting her money, her family's money. But what about my $50,000 sitting in that escrow account I kept reading? According to this prenup, if we ever divorced, the house would be sold, and the proceeds divided proportionally. I put in 50. She put in 34. Fine. But what if she never intended to see me as an equal partner in the first place? What if I was just convenient? A guy with a stable job who could help fund her lifestyle while she waited for her real wealth to come through. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark living room, my mind spinning. I thought about calling her, confronting her right then. But something stopped me. I needed to think clearly. I needed to protect myself. The next morning I called my best friend Marcus. We met for coffee before work. I told him everything. The prenup, the secret emails, the phone calls with her mom. Marcus listened, his jaw tight. When I finished, he shook his head. "Dude, you need to talk to a lawyer. Like yesterday." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think I do." That afternoon I took a half-day off work and drove to a real estate attorney's office. His name was Mr. Bradford. I had found him through a quick search for lawyers who specialized in property disputes. I sat across from him in his wood-paneled office and laid it all out. The house, the down payment, the prenup Jessica was planning behind my back. Mr. Bradford listened without interrupting, his fingers steepled under his chin. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "If you are having second thoughts about this purchase, you still have options," he said. "The closing has not happened yet. You are still in the escrow period." I leaned forward. "What kind of options?" He explained. "You can withdraw from the contract, but you would need her consent if both names are on it. Or," he paused, watching me carefully, "you can petition to remove your name and your funds if you can show cause for concern." I frowned. "What kind of cause?" Mr. Bradford tapped his desk. "Financial disagreements before closing can be grounds. If she is planning a prenup that fundamentally changes the nature of your financial partnership, that is a material change in circumstances. You would need documentation, like the prenup draft she is working on." I reached into my bag and pulled out the printed copy of the email and the PDF. I slid it across his desk. Mr. Bradford put on his reading glasses and scanned through the pages. After a few minutes, he looked up. "This is pretty ironclad on her side. She is protecting everything, including the house." He met my eyes. "If I were you, I would get your name and your money out of that house deal now, before it is too late." I sat there torn. Part of me still loved Jessica. Part of me wanted to believe this was all a misunderstanding, that we could talk it out. But the other part, the logical part, the part that had worked hard and saved every dollar of that $50,000, knew better. She was protecting herself. I needed to protect myself too. "Do it," I said. "File the petition." Mr. Bradford nodded. "I will have it ready by tomorrow." 3 days later, the paperwork was filed. My name was officially removed from the title. My $50,000 was transferred back into my personal account. I checked my bank statement online and saw the number there. $50,000, back where it belonged. And Jessica had no idea. Not yet. Then 2 days after I pulled my money, Jessica came home from work with a strange look on her face. She was nervous. I could see it in the way she kept fidgeting with her purse strap. "Babe," she said, "my parents want to take us out to dinner this Saturday. They said they have something important to discuss with us. About our future." I kept my face neutral. "Oh yeah. What about?" She shook her head. "I am not sure exactly. But they said, it is important." I knew exactly what it was. They were going to bring up the prenup. Probably had the whole speech planned out. How it was smart. How it protected both of us. How any reasonable person would agree. "Sure," I said. "Sounds good." Which restaurant? Jessica smiled, relieved. "That Italian place downtown. Carrabba's. 7 p.m. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I could not sleep. I went to work but barely got anything done. My mind kept playing out scenarios. How would they bring it up? What would Jessica say? How would her parents react when I told them what I had done? On Friday, Jessica went shopping with her mother. She came home with bags from expensive stores and showed me a new dress. "I got this for tomorrow night," she said, twirling. "It is beautiful, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, you will look great." She hugged me. "I am so glad we are doing this dinner. I think it will be really good for us." I hugged her back, but inside I felt hollow. Saturday morning I woke up early and went for a run along the Colorado River. The sun was just coming up, the water still and glassy. I ran hard, trying to burn off the nerves. By the time I got back to my apartment, I knew what I had to do. Stay calm, let them talk first. Then drop the truth like a bomb. I showered, dressed in a clean button-down and dark jeans, and slipped the documents into the inside pocket of my jacket. Bank statements, withdrawal petition, everything I needed. I looked at myself in the mirror. "Tonight," I said quietly, "everything changes." At 7 p.m., I walked into Carrabba's with Jessica. The restaurant was warm and dimly lit, candles flickering on every table, soft jazz playing in the background. Her parents were already seated at a corner booth. Diane stood up when she saw us, her arms open wide. She wore a black dress, diamond earrings, catching the light, her hair perfectly styled. "Gary, so good to see you. You look handsome tonight." I shook her hand, then turned to Robert. He was a tall man with graying hair, wearing a gray suit and a deep red tie. His handshake was firm, almost aggressive. "Son," he said. "How is work?" I smiled politely. "Good, sir. Project is going well." We sat down. Jessica was next to me, her hand resting on mine, but I could feel the slight dampness of her palm. She was nervous. We ordered drinks first. Diane insisted on a bottle of expensive red wine. Then appetizers. Calamari, bruschetta. The conversation started light. Weather, business, wedding plans. But I could see it in their eyes. Diane kept glancing at Robert. Robert kept glancing at Jessica. They were waiting for the right moment. Jessica kept sipping her water, refilling her glass, her knee bouncing under the table. I stayed quiet, cutting into the bruschetta, chewing, slowly letting the tension build. Finally, after the appetizers were cleared, Diane put down her fork and dabbed her mouth with her napkin. "So Gary, Jessica," she began, her voice smooth and practiced. "Robert and I wanted to talk to you both about something important." She paused for effect. "Now that you are getting married and buying a house together." She looked at Jessica. "Sweetie, do you want to?" Jessica took a deep breath. I felt her hand tighten on mine. "Gary," she said, her voice soft, "I have been thinking a lot about our future, and I love you. I really do." She paused. "But my parents and I have discussed this, and we think for both of our protection, we should have a prenuptial agreement." I let the words hang in the air for a moment. Then I said, my voice calm, "A prenup?" Jessica nodded quickly. "Yes. It is not that I do not trust you, babe. It is just smart." "You know," Robert leaned forward, jumping in. "Gary, you seem like a smart guy. You work in tech. You understand risk management." He folded his hands on the table. "A prenup is just that. Managing risk. It protects both of you. If God forbid something happens, nobody fights over money. It is all spelled out." Diane added her smile. Sweet and patronizing. "And Gary, you have to understand. Our family has worked very hard to build our wealth. Jessica is our only daughter. We want to make sure she is protected." She tilted her head. "I am sure you understand as a man of principle." Jessica squeezed my hand again. "The prenup is simple. Everything we had before marriage stays separate. Everything we acquire during marriage, including the house, gets divided fairly if we ever split." She looked at me with hopeful eyes. "It is fair, right?" I nodded slowly. "What about the house we just put a deposit on?" Jessica answered quickly. "That would be joint property split based on contribution. You put in 50, I put in 34. So if we sell, you get more back proportionally." I let that sink in. Then I said very calmly, "I see. So everything stays separate." Jessica's face relaxed. She smiled. "Exactly, I am so glad you understand, babe." Robert raised his wine glass to a smart, mature decision. Diane lifted hers, too beaming. Jessica lifted hers, waiting for me to join. I picked up my glass, held it. Then I set it back down. "You know what, Jessica," I said. "I think a prenup is a great idea." Her whole body relaxed. "Really? Oh my God, I was so worried you would be upset." Diane clapped her hands softly. "I knew you were a sensible man." Gary Robert nodded, approving. "Smart move, son." I reached into my jacket pocket. In fact, I continued pulling out the envelope. "I think it is perfect timing." I placed the envelope on the table. Jessica looked at it confused. "What is that?" I opened it slowly and pulled out the first document. "Just some papers I think you should see." I slid the first page across the table to Jessica. "This is the original purchase contract for our house. You will see both our names on it." Jessica glanced down. "Yeah, I know. We both signed it." I slid the second document over. "And this is the withdrawal petition I filed 1 week ago." The table went silent. Jessica picked up the paper, her eyes scanning it. "Withdrawal petition." Her voice was small. I kept my tone even. "Yes, I withdrew my name from the title." She looked up at me, her face pale. "What? What do you mean?" "You withdrew." I said it clearly. "I mean exactly that. My name is no longer on the house contract." Diane's voice cut in sharp. "Gary, this must be some kind of mistake. You cannot just..." I held up a hand. "Oh, I can." And I did. My lawyer filed the paperwork, and it was approved. I pulled out the third document, my bank statement. I slid it across. "And this is my bank statement from 3 days ago. You will see a deposit of $50,000. My down payment. Returned to me in full." Jessica grabbed the paper with shaking hands. "50,000. You took it back." Her voice cracked. But we were buying that house together." I looked at her. "Were we? Or were you buying it? And I was just funding part of it." Robert's voice rose loud enough that people at nearby tables glanced over. "Now hold on a minute. You cannot just back out of a deal like that." I stayed calm. "Actually, I can. There is a clause in the contract for financial disputes before closing." I exercised it. Diane's face had gone white. "Jessica, does this mean?" Jessica looked at her mother, eyes wide with panic. "The closing is in 2 weeks. I need that $50,000 to complete the purchase." I said it clearly, so there was no confusion, which you no longer have, because it was my money, and now it is back in my account. I leaned back slightly. "You wanted everything separate, right? Well, now it is. Completely separate." Jessica turned to me, desperation in her voice. "Gary, please. This is insane. We can talk about the prenup." "We do not have to." I cut her off. "Oh, we are way past that, Jessica." My voice was steady, but every word landed hard. "I found the email from your lawyer. I read the prenup draft. I saw how you and your mother were planning this behind my back." Diane tried to interrupt. "Gary, you are being unreasonable. We were just trying to protect our family." I met her eyes, and I am protecting mine. Myself. Robert was doing the math in his head. I could see it on his face. "Wait, if you pulled your 50,000, and the down payment is 84 total." I nodded. "That is right. Jessica now has to come up with $50,000 in 2 weeks, or she loses the house. And her $34,000 deposit." The silence that fell over the table was thick and suffocating. Jessica started crying. Quiet, shocked tears. "Gary, please, do not do this. I love you." I looked at her, and for a moment, I felt the weight of everything we had been. The coffee shop, the hikes, the lazy Sunday mornings. But then I remembered the secret emails, the phone calls, the prenup designed to protect her while leaving me exposed. "If you loved me," I said softly but firmly, "you would have talked to me, not about me with your parents and a lawyer. You would have seen me as a partner, not a liability to protect against." I stood up. Diane reached out. "Gary, sit down. We can fix this." I shook my head. "No, Diane, we cannot." I pulled out my wallet and placed $300 bills on the table. "Enough to cover everyone's meal and a generous tip. Enjoy your dinner. It is on me." I looked at Jessica one last time. Her mascara was running. Her hands were trembling. "Goodbye, Jessica." And I walked out of that restaurant into the warm Austin night feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The days after that dinner were hard. I am not going to lie and say I felt nothing. I went back to my apartment alone, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and sat by the window looking out at the Austin skyline. The lights of the city glowed against the dark sky, and I felt this strange mix of pain and relief. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Texts from Jessica. Call after call. I did not answer. I read the messages, though. "Gary, please let us talk. I am sorry I was stupid. My parents pushed me. It was not my idea. I will cancel the prenup, please come back." I deleted each one without replying. A week later, the final text came through. "I lost the house. The seller kept my deposit. Are you happy now?" I stared at that message for a long time. Was I happy? No, but I was free, and that mattered more. I deleted her number that night. The first week after, I barely slept. I cried alone in my apartment, second-guessing everything. Did I overreact? Should I have given her a chance to explain? But then, I would remember the prenup. The secret planning. The way her parents looked at me like I was just some obstacle to manage. And I knew I had made the right choice. Marcus took me hiking the second week. We drove out to the hill country, walked for hours without saying much. When we finally stopped at a viewpoint, he turned to me. "You did the right thing, man." I nodded. "I know. It just does not feel like it yet." He clapped me on the shoulder. "It will." And slowly it did. I started going to the gym more. I threw myself into work. A month later, I took a solo trip to Colorado. I hiked mountains, slept under stars, and remembered who I was before Jessica. 6 months after that dinner, I met someone new. Her name was Leah. She was a graphic designer, independent, honest, and when we talked about the future, she talked about partnership. Real partnership, not contracts or protections, just two people building something together. Looking back now, a year later, I do not regret walking away from that dinner table. I regret that it had to happen. I regret that someone I loved saw me as a financial risk instead of a life partner. But I do not regret protecting myself. Here is what I learned. Love is not just about feelings. It is about respect. If someone truly values you, they do not plan your life together behind your back. They do not consult lawyers before they consult you. And they definitely do not let their parents dictate the terms of your relationship. That $50,000 was not just money. It was years of hard work, discipline, and sacrifice. I earned it. I saved it. and I would be damned if I let someone take it while pretending to love me. The best investment I ever made was not in a house. It was in my self-respect. Walking away from that dinner cost me a relationship, but staying would have cost me my dignity. So if you are ever in a situation where someone you love asks you to sign away your rights, your assets, your security, ask yourself this: are they protecting us or just themselves? Because real love does not need a prenup. It needs trust. And if the trust is not there, maybe the love is not either. As for Jessica, last I heard she is still single, still living with her parents, still looking for someone who will fund her dreams without asking questions. I hope she finds what she is looking for, but it will not be me. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away from the table before they serve you a bad deal. Even if it hurts, even if it is hard, even if everyone is watching. Because at the end of the day, you are the only one who has to live with your choices. Make sure they are choices you can be proud of. So let me ask you, have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between love and self-respect? Drop your story in the comments. I would love to hear how you handled it. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up for yourself when it matters most. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone who is struggling with a tough decision right now. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you make better choices in your own life. Stay strong, stay smart, and never let anyone make you feel small for protecting what is yours.